You know, if you've got any questions to ask, pass them on to Tom. And Lamin, so that kind of clears Lamin. You'd have to whisper.
What are your two children's names, Carl?
So this is Lottie. In fact, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Lottie.
Hi, Lottie.
I'm Alfie.
Hi, Alfie. All right.
And how old are you this year?
I'm turning 11 this year. I'm turning 13 this year.
Wow. So this will be exciting for you two.
Yep.
Yeah. So if you two have any questions, then feel free to. So Lamin is your man. He'll be able to answer any questions about what it's like in Gambia. How's he just gone?
Why we're kind of having questions in that? My concern, Tom, what I said to you is, these guys want to come. I was based in Kenya for 6 months in 2006. I was permanent staff with the British Army out there, so I had a bit of a free rein. At the time, it was brilliant for us, but we was in kind of civilian vehicles, but with pangers on the front, so people knew who we were.
Yeah.
I'm not. How different or how safe or unsafe is it compared to like Nanuki and downtown Nairobi back in the day?
Mick, you might be able to answer that.
It's very safe, Carl. You know, I've been coming and going from the Gambia for 10 years, and there are, as with any city in a developing country, you know, if you end up in the wrong part of Banjul or even areas outside the capital, there are risks of pickpocketing and muggings and that sort of thing. But just to put it in context, you know, we've taken students out there for years, and these are kids of 17, 18 years of age who have no experience of, a lot of them never traveled overseas, to be honest. And the number of incidents is very small. That said, you know, healthcare provision is not great out there either. So we'll talk to you more about that, particularly if there are kids coming out, or if you're thinking of the kids coming out. But it's a very peaceful country, and there's none of the sort of conflict or civil unrest that you get in other parts of West Africa, Liberia, Sierra Leone, and that type of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Brilliant.
We'll go into more detail, though, Carl, because obviously you want to know like the ins and outs of everything, where we're going, the places that you'd be going to and what you'd be seeing, and where you'd be staying. So,
Hey, that picture of me, that picture that's on the screen, that we're fine with that.
Yeah,
Fine with that.
that was where I stayed. It was when I was doing the 10 marathon challenge over there, and we stayed in the tents with one of the villagers, and even that's just an unbelievable experience, like getting to just live with the villagers and play football with the kids. And although after I'd finished a marathon, I didn't want to be playing football. It was like you felt like you had to. Well, you kind of wanted to as well, but yeah, that was where we were having a shower where you have to pick the bucket of water out of the well, carry it to where the shower is, and tip a bucket of water over your head, and that was your shower. So it's, in terms of luxuries, or what we're used to as luxuries, that's not what it's going to be. Like, it is really immersing yourself in community life.
That's 1,000,000% what we'd like to give this, that humbling experience to the kids.
Yeah,
I've lived many places like that around the world doing that type of basic living, and really enjoyed it and found peace with it. I'd love these to experience it, but in a safe environment. So I didn't think we could ever go back.
Yeah.
Even on safari, I mean, after I left there, like, things started happening at shopping centres and there was attacks and that. But I lived out on the ranches and a few things, and loved it, but never thought I could ever give that experience to the kids. And this coming around and meeting you, and this is ideal if it's safe. So that's our only concern, really. But Lottie's trying to just keep whispering something to me. What do you want to ask? Ask then. Ask Tom.
No.
What do you want to ask?
Never mind.
Is that where we'll be living? He's behind me. He can come again, Tom. She's basically saying, is that where we'll be living, in those in the accommodation behind your tent?
So, well, I'll show you the accommodation for, as we go on in the presentation, I'll show you the accommodation that the C4RC team have built. And that is, it's kind of a bit more luxury than those that you see behind you, which are like traditional mud huts. So yeah, you probably wouldn't want to stay in them, although there is people, if you, yeah, people could, but yeah, the accommodation that C4RC has that's just newly built is a lot more luxurious than those. So there is a bit of luxury, but I'll show you it when we go through. But I think we may as well make a start, 'cause we're recording it anyway. I don't know if there's any more people that are going to join, so we'll send the recording to everyone else. So yeah, so Expedition Gambia, this is something that I've just put together today to try and give you a bit of an idea of what is likely to be involved. And then we've got Lamin and Mick, who you've just met. Who again, Lamin is the project manager for Communities for Red Colobus project, and Mick is the founder of the project. So I've sort of helped with that over the last year, but I've also been involved with different stuff in Gambia over the last few years. So yeah, there we go. So this is the Gambia. If you don't know where it is on the west coast of Africa. It's always called the smiling coast of Africa. But Lamin, do you know what the reason behind it, why it's called the smiling coast of Africa?
Yeah, because people are the hospitality of the people.
Hospitality of the people.
Yeah, and
yes.
You know, everybody, when you came into the Gambia, there's always a smile on everyone's face, whether you are sad or not. Everybody's smiling.
Yeah, that's what I took from it from the first time I came to Gambia, is that everybody is happy, and it taught me a big lesson about happiness and how there's people in one of the poorest countries in the world that they can be so happy. And you look at people from the West that have a lot of wealth, but they're not happy, and it was a big learn for me. So yeah, so the Gambia is surrounded by Senegal. You see Banjul. I'm pointing with my arrow, but I don't know if anybody can see that.
Yeah.
So yeah, Banjul's on the coast. So that's the capital, and it's where you would fly into. And then the Gambia is split up into different regions. So you've got the Central River region, the Lower River region, West Coast, North Bank, and Upper River region. So when you fly into Banjul, there's a few different things that we can do on the coast. And then the project site for C4RC is that in the Upper River region, Mick?
Yeah, no, Central. Yeah,
Central. Yeah, so essentially this is Gambia. It's a very small country. I think it's the smallest mainland country in Africa. So why I visit Gambia? So like I briefly said before, the reason why I go is because it gives me a sense of gratitude, and it makes me realize how grateful I am for everything that I have in the UK. And it also gives me the opportunity to give back. So I do a lot of work to try and give back to communities over there, as well as the wildlife. So I studied zoology, and Mick was actually my former lecturer. So it was him that introduced me to Gambia back in, I think it's 2016, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and since then I sort of fell in love with the country, the people, and the wildlife, and I've just wanted to do more and more since that first visit, and that's why I've sort of gone every year since that first visit. And I think I'll always continue to try and do as much as I can for the country, the people, and the wildlife. Yeah. So what the main reason why I go is because I enjoy it. It's a time where you feel happy about what you can do and you can achieve, and yeah, it gives me that sense of gratitude. So some of the things that I've done previously, so this was actually when I was working on my dissertation project at university, working on or looking at reintroducing elephants into Gambia. Although that's a long process and isn't necessarily going to happen, it was a good idea to do feasibility studies. So working with the communities and the farmers on like the impact, so what impact it would have on those communities. And from that experience, you get to really understand a lot about the communities there and how they live. And we came across this one community at Kiang West National Park. And when I visited there, I realised that the water pump had broken on the well, so that there is no water for them. They can't go and buy bottles of water like we would. They have to dig a borehole and pull the water out of the well. And then that water then is given to the community. It also is water for the cattle, the livestock. And yeah, we discovered that I and another person discovered that their well was broken, or the water pump was broken. So, and they were using donkeys to pull the water out. So they would attach a rope to the donkey with a bucket on the other end, and then make the donkey run up and down, pulling the water from the well, so that they could have water for the village and their livestock. And they'd actually gone, so this community had gone through, I think 3 donkeys had died over, I think it was about a 6-month period, due to exhaustion. So they were constantly, the amount of water that they needed from this well was too much and they were working the donkeys all day, every day, to pull the amount of water that they needed out of the well. And when I found this out, and I said, well, why can't you use a water pump? They said that's what they did before, but it's broken and we can't afford to fix it. So my first instinct was, well, let's fix it, because I wanted to give something back there and then. And I asked her, how much does it cost to fix the water pump? And they said it was £400. And I was like, well, I could fix that there and then, pay the £400, and then it would stop the donkeys dying, and it would mean that the village had water again. So I paid that £400 for the water pump, thinking that would be it. But it ended up actually being a lot more expensive, because it wasn't just the water pump that they needed, it was a new borehole that needed digging, then it was the water tank. So I think I ended up paying about £1,500 to £2,000. But to me, I was still a student at that point, and I didn't have the money in my bank to actually pay for it. I think I had to use my overdraft to actually pay for it. But yeah, so it was essentially like that. I just absolutely love being able to help people. So when I said to them, why couldn't they afford it, and looked at how much they were earning or bringing money in, and it would take something like 10 years for them to actually be able to afford it. And that was if they saved every penny that they had to be able to pay for that well. And my thoughts behind it were that although I didn't have the money at the time, that I would eventually earn that money back. So it would take me a couple of months to be back with that money. So yeah, so that's one of the things that I've done. It was a bit going on a bit too much about it, but yeah, so that's one of the things that I've done to give back. I also helped set up the first young wildlife conservation group with Baxi, who's in the red shirt at the back. So Lamin, you've been working with Baxi recently and the Young Wildlife Conservation Group in collaborating with C4RC. So I met Baxi again at Kiang West National Park in the Gambia back in about 2016, and I spoke to him about my passion for wildlife conservation and what I was doing, why I was in Gambia, and then because he's a teacher, on the back of our conversation, he then went on to set up the Young Wildlife Conservation Group, so actually teaching in schools in Gambia about wildlife conservation, how they can protect their own forests and their own wildlife. And I thought that was incredible, that just from one conversation with someone, that he can then go and inspire 20, 30 people that he teaches every single day. And when I found out that he was doing that he'd set up this group, I thought, well, I could do because he's done that without asking for any help from me or asking for any funding. He said that the students had learned so much about the wildlife, but they'd never actually been able to go into the forests. So again, I made a donation of about £200 to allow all the students to go into Kiang West National Park and learn about the wildlife in the park, and not just through him, really teaching them in a class. We've got a few more joined us. Michael, you're on. Yeah, so on the back of that, and they wrote me this song, sung me this song, and at first I thought they were saying God is our leader, but it's actually Tom is our leader, and I just thought it's amazing how much you can inspire people from one simple or one little donation. So yeah, so that group of students like consider me as a leader, when all what I did was donate a bit of money so that they could go and learn more about wildlife in an actual national park. And I just thought it's amazing just how much you can do for someone and how grateful someone can be for that. So I know most of you have already seen or already know that, again, that I did a running challenge. So one day I decided that I was actually speaking to Mick when we were out in Gambia, and I just said, what is the length of Gambia? What is the total length? And I Googled it, and it came back at 260 miles. So I was like, I could easily run that. Maybe I'll run that for charity and raise some money for the projects, the communities, and the wildlife in Gambia. And I was thinking I could easily run that in 2 days, not knowing what's involved with a marathon at all. Never ran one before. And then, I looked into it, and I was like, it's 260 miles, I'll do that. And then I started training for it, and still never ran a single marathon before. We ended up doing that from start to finish. It was 10 marathons in 10 days. So it was originally meant to be 260 miles because that's what Google came back at telling us at the full length of the country, but it ended up being about, I think it's about 280 miles in total. And we raised about, I think it was £8,500 for projects over there, projects in Gambia. So that's something else I've done. So I've put a bit, Lamin and Mick will be able to talk more about the project site that you'd be visiting. But again, I've just to re-emphasize like why joining the expedition, and I know an interest in what I've spoke to each individual about before. But yeah, for me and for you, it'd be the opportunity to give back. So for a lot of people that they don't have the opportunity to give back, or they're wondering ways that they could give back, or yeah. So by joining, there will be a sort of a fee involved with joining, and just that alone will be giving back to communities in some of the poorest parts of the world. But you could also get involved with more, so that you could teach something in the schools, teach something to the project staff. It doesn't have to be a lot, it could be a skill that you've learned, even teaching a bit of English or whatever. There's all sorts that we could discuss that is the opportunity for you to give back to communities. So it'll give you the opportunity to learn about the culture in Gambia, the wildlife, and the history of Gambia. So Gambia is very involved with the slave trade, so there'll be opportunities to learn about that. But yeah, immersing yourself with the culture is one of the best things that I've done anyway. You'll be directly involved with one of the world's most important wildlife conservation projects. So I'll let Mick and Lamin speak more about that. Well, you'll be living with remote communities, learn about gratitude and happiness, and really be at one with nature and forget about the outside world. So the last trip that I was on with Mick, I just remember walking down one of the paths in the forest, and if you just stop and listen, you really get to see what's around you and hear what's around you. And because you've not really got any phone signal, there's not really any electricity to charge any devices or anything like that, you really get to be with nature, and you get to forget about everything that's going on back home, or things to do with work. And it's just that opportunity to disconnect from that outside world. So I've put together a basic schedule, but this is because we've never done this before. The C4RC team haven't done this before. We've sort of want to make it bespoke to what you are wanting and what you want to get out of it, really. So this is the idea that myself, Mick, and Lamin spoke about. But there's quite a lot of opportunities to get involved with different stuff when you're at the project site. So I've put arrival in Gambia 23rd of November. So that's the dates that I've been looking at with TUI. So TUI the season goes from around November to April each year. So that would be the start of the new season in terms of flights. So you spend a couple of days on the coast, so you're going to acclimatise to the weather, because it is very hot there. And we'd take you to different places, so like the Tangi fish markets and the Gunjo project, and you'll be able to learn about the different cultures in Combo on the coast. And then possibility of travelling up river for 5 or 6 nights and staying at the project site. We could also stay at Kiang West National Park and do a creek crawl. Georgetown to learn about the slave trade, visit the slave house. A River Gambia boat trip to spend the day searching for hippo, crocodiles, and look at chimpanzees on Baboon Island. But yeah, essentially it would be 5 or 6 nights with living with the village community at Sambelkunda. So you'd cook, eat, and immerse yourself in village life. So, and expect lots of dancing, music, and celebrations because you will be welcomed into the community. I can't really describe what it's like when you are welcomed into a community like that, but there'll be very big celebrations when you do arrive. I've put visit school, so there's the C4RC team have an education team within the school, so you get to visit there, and I've put on there for the option for Alfie and Lottie to attend school for a day. I don't know what Mick and Lamin think about that, whether we could discuss with Meta. If Kyle, if you do end up going, and Alfie and Lottie wanted to, they could attend school with the students in Gambia. The Gambian students could teach them, Alfie and Lottie, about what it's like in Gambia, where they live, maybe a bit about the C4RC project, the wildlife there. And then Alfie and Lottie could maybe talk to the students there about what it's like living in the UK, and what they learn at school, or wildlife in the UK, or whatever Alfie and Lottie are interested in. They could bring that to the school in the project site in Sambelkunda.
That sounds cool, Tom, and I'm sure we can fix that up with Meta. It's a really good idea.
Yeah, I think these guys are excited here, aren't you?
So yeah, with you and Lottie and Alfie, would you be interested in joining the school?
Yes.
Definitely. Is it? Because it would be a good opportunity for the school students there to learn from you, because you're sort of the same age as them. That they'll probably learn more from you than if we were to teach them about different things from over in the UK.
Tom, Lottie's almost a supply teacher, mate. She's like the second teacher in her class as it is. So she'd love that.
You're getting signed up over there.
Absolutely be an element, wouldn't you? Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Nice touch, mate.
Maths and stuff. Some maths.
Yeah, that would be good. It could be anything, just even if you play football or anything, you could talk about the football teams that you support, and you'd have so much connection with them, and you'd be able to play with them, play football in the school grounds and things. So yeah, and then so you join the Rangers on foot patrols in the flooded forest, searching for the critically endangered red colobus monkey. I probably shouldn't have put critically, it's endangered now. So yeah, so you get the opportunity to go into the forest. At that time of year, the forests are flooded, and they sort of come up to around, the water level sort of comes up to around knee level, I think it was last time. It might be a bit higher, but then you're guided with the rangers who are experienced in traveling through the forests, and you'll be able to search for red colobus monkeys. And it is one of the most spectacular things that you can do, and it feels like you're in Africa when you're doing that, because you're really in amongst all the wildlife. So I've put what to expect. So this was a saying that I said when I was doing the 10 marathon challenge, because there was a few people then that had never been to Gambia, including my cousin that was doing the running challenge with me. And I just said, they were wondering what to expect. And I just said, expect the unexpected, because it doesn't matter how much that we can say, there's always a little thing that happens that has never happened before. So that was basically, I know it doesn't look a lot, but the transport that we had, they only put 5 litres of fuel in each day, which is never enough, and we knew it wasn't enough. So every day our vehicle broke down, and that wasn't something that before we did the running challenge, it wasn't something we planned for, prepared for. So we just had to get on with it. It was just the way that the Gambians worked. They only wanted to put 5 litres of fuel in each day, and there was, no matter how much we told them, how much money we'd give them to go and put more fuel in, it just would never happen. So we broke down every day and had to wait for fuel to be put back into the jeeps and the support vehicles. So there's a lot of different things that it could be vehicle breakdowns, and then you're stuck for a couple of hours or a few hours. There's things like that. So just to bear in mind that there'll be things that happen that we would never have even thought of happening. But rather than getting stressed about it or annoyed, you just, I know with the group that are going, we all know about this sort of stuff and how we deal with stress and things. But yeah, so it's just remembering that things can happen, and yeah, expect the unexpected. So I was going to talk a bit about the transport and things. So Lamin, can you hear me okay now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Can you talk a bit about the bikes and things that you've got at the project site? So this is what would be, maybe you may be able to jump in a bit.
Yeah, sure, will do.
With how we would be transporting people around the project site, really.
You want to kick off, Lamin? Can you hear?
Yes, I can hear. All right. Welcome. And,
Got a lot of background noise in there.
yeah, I don't know where that noise came from. Is Baxi on?
Yeah, Baxi's on. We can hear you, Lamin. We can hear
right.
okay. Yeah,
Maybe.
speak up a bit.
All right. And the project, we have motorbike.
I can't hear you, Lamin.
It's not coming through. Not coming through, Lamin.
Are you guys getting me now?
A little better. Try again.
All right. I'm just saying, welcome everybody for Expedition Gambia 2022, and welcome to E4RC project as well. And I am the project manager. Project started in 2020, and it's 3 years on the project. And for us, what Home is saying about the transportation in the country, we are definitely far away from coast. The transportations there is, and these are the two-wheel bicycles. But normally, when we are going to forest, it took 1,000 per motorbicycle. But now we have a three-wheeler that takes 8 people, and there's a seat in this. We just modify it, not original seat, but we modify it to make it comfortable. So the transporting the tourist to the forest, which is like from the center into the forest, just like 1.5 kilometers drive. And we have a very professional drivers that will take the forest safely and bring you back into the town. So those are the means of transportation that we have. We don't have a car that will take into the forest, AC, and you will have you experience the local transportation, provide a card. And it's definitely a very enjoyable, also welcome. Those are the means of transportation and transport that way.
Yeah, so Lamin, I'll just jump in on that. It was quite difficult to hear. So if you come in November, there's a lot of areas that are still quite flooded like this. So the best transport around from where you would be staying in the village is through the motorbikes, and we now have a motorbike that's got it's a trike that's got a platform on the back that I think you said it can fit 8 people. I mean, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that would be a way of traveling around the forest and around the village, and then obviously be walking as well. Mick or Lamin, do you want to say about the accommodation?
Yeah, I'll come in there. So we never expected, as part of this project, to have the funds to set up to build a visitor center. That wasn't really part of the plan. It was a science project built around trying to conserve one of the rarest primate species in Africa. And it was all about community involvement. And it was about education and outreach and primate monitoring work and enforcement work, all sorts of different aspects. But we never really expected to have money to do this. And then just sort of out of the blue, we applied for a grant through an organization called the Tusk Trust to do more with elephants and rhinos in Africa. And it was kind of a 1 in a million, but we got a chunk of funding to be able to start building. So we have been kind of building this visitor center, which is a very grand name for around a very traditional roundhouse that in March, I went out with Anna, my other half, and we painted it. So all those beautiful murals are brand new. But essentially, there are 2 rooms in that roundhouse and 3 beds in each. There's a double and a single in each. And the whole setup is run by solar energy. So we've got a solar borehole that provides, that feeds a couple of taps. And then inside the buildings, you've got solar lighting. We have power points for plugs and phones and devices, and we got a little solar fridge in there for cold drinks. So it's right out in the middle of nowhere. It's in the bush, on a chunk of land that was donated or gifted to the project from one of the villages, from Mizira, one of the villages that we work with. And it acts as much more than just a center for ecotourism. So it's kind of a community hub. So we're using it for visiting scientific researchers. We're using it for school groups, for women's groups, for all sorts of marginalized groups within the communities. So it's kind of a meeting place. And we've got the building that you see in front of you, which is the accommodation block. And then there's another building that's known in Gambia as a bantaba. And a bantaba is a more open building, which is essentially a kind of community space. So it's not for accommodation, it's for meetings, and it's for parties, and it's for dancing, and it's for training and workshops and whatever else. So that's the kind of setup that we've developed, just to give you an idea. It still has a tin roof. It certainly doesn't have air con. It doesn't have a kettle. There's only so much we're learning. We're kind of learning the hard way, but there's only so much you can run through solar energy, even though you're in 40 degrees in the middle of the African bush. But it's a damn sight more than we ever expected we would have. And actually, within 2 or 3 days, you get used to it. And it's beautiful. And those beds that you see, all the furniture inside has been crafted by a local man from local palm trees in the forests where the primates live and along the river. And the whole place was built using the skills that exist within the communities, more or less.
That's good. Thanks, Mick. Yeah, so I don't know what other people's thoughts are when they first see something like that, but from being in the Gambia and staying at some very different places, that I feel that what the C4RC team have achieved with this is a very luxury accommodation compared to some out there. So yeah. So I know, Mick, do you want to talk a bit more about the C4RC project itself?
Okay, that's fine. Well, I'll keep this brief because I don't want to steal anyone's thunder. But I have been working in the Gambia for about 10 years, and I have a background as a vet and taught zoology. And Tom was one of my students for a few years. And most of the work I've done out there is to do with red colobus. And red colobus are kind of widely, it's a group of 17 species, of which one exists in the Gambia. And they're now widely recognized within the kind of scientific community as the most threatened group of primates in Africa. So that one has gone extinct over the last few years, 2 or 3 more are just on the very verge of extinction. So there's a lot of focus on trying to keep these animals alive at the moment. And so most of the work I did in the early years was about disease management and treatment and so on. But this project was something that we developed in 2019. We spent that year going out and doing surveys in all of the remaining large forest areas in the Gambia. And true to form, we found what we expected, which was that in the vast majority of sites, the forests are disappearing and the primates were either extinct or very close to extinction. And then we found this one spectacular place, which just stood out like a sore thumb, which is Sambal Kunda. And for all sorts of reasons I won't go into now, there's still about 40 kilometers square of not pristine forest. It has been logged, and they've taken out the mahogany and the ebony and all the high value species, but the forest is intact and it still works for some really remarkable species. So we've got big cats in there and jackals and hyenas and all sorts, but in amongst it all is the last stronghold for Temminck's red colobus. So it's the best place in West Africa for this primate species. And so we developed, it was kind of a no-brainer. We developed a very community-based project to try we started it in March 2020. It's been going for 3 years. And the aim really is to protect the forest and the remaining monkeys for the benefit of the local communities, because this is not an exclusion zone. There is no big fence around this. We haven't kicked the locals out. The only way conservation in Africa works is if you put communities right at the heart of what you're doing. So every aspect of the C4RC project has community involvement, including the education program, the primate monitoring program, tree nurseries, whatever it happens to be. And that's the only way it can work. If you try and exclude people, you basically piss them off and disenfranchise them, and they will turn on you and just poach the animals that you're trying to protect. And that's been shown in all sorts of other areas. So yeah, and Lamin will tell you more about the kind of team structure, but basically we recruited Lamin and 6 rangers. So that's the team we have in place at the moment. They're employed. But we've also got wildlife clubs with lots and lots of kids, and we've got ranger training programs and all sorts of offshoots. So there's quite a lot going on, but fundamentally it's about trying to protect this monkey and doing it with the community. And the only way you can do that, if you're telling the community to stay out of the forest and stop cutting it, because that's the only way they had of making money, then you've got to give them alternative sources of income. And that's why that's where ecotourism comes in, and that's where tree nurseries and bees and all sorts of other alternative livelihood projects come in. So I've kind of devoted the last 3 years to this on a voluntary basis. Any of the ecotourists that we've had passing through, and if you decide to join us, none of that money feeds back into Tubab or white people's bank accounts. It stays either within the project itself to fund salaries and equipment, or it will be distributed amongst the local communities to help them to meet their needs. So that, yeah, hopefully that gives you some sort of idea.
Yeah, thank you, Mick.
All right. Thank you so much for that. And also, as he mentioned, we have a structure of staffs. We got like 6 staffs working the ground, and they all got their responsibilities as well. Samsidin Bari and is one of very brilliant staff responsible for taking the tourists out for monkey safari, and who are responsible for our data sovereign. And you'll meet Idris Njai, who is responsible for our tree nursery. And the trees that we have a nursery that we normally distribute it to the communities. Trees into nursery, and also for rehabilitation of the forest. The trees that we lost in the forest to bring back to bring them back to the forest as well. And the fruit trees that normally goes, we give them to the communities for making money, like the cashew. The cashew is a fast-growing tree in Gambia. Is that person have money for your own family benefits. And you have Meta, Uba, and Zainab, who are responsible for community sensitizations, education programs, and also wildlife. And Samsudin Bari, as I mentioned before, is also responsible for community ranger training.
Thanks for that, Lamin. So Lamin was just, it's quite quiet, so Lamin was just telling us about the different roles of the different staff involved with C4RC. So I can see Baxi's joined us. I don't know if, Baxi, can you hear me or not? You're not saying anything.
I can hear you.
Do you want to talk anything about the tree nurseries or anything?
Yes, I am just, hello everyone, and then I am just joining in, and I was listening to your conversation, and it is very, very good that the project is having visitors to come and visit the project area and to experience Gambia first time. And then I believe, and I also know that when they come around, they will enjoy the project, they will enjoy Gambia. Yes, the tree nursery is there, and then it is there to support the community, and then also to rehabilitate the forest, the lost cover of the forest. So we are working on it, and then we have, as Lamin just mentioned, we have cashews, mahoganies, and malinas. They also are there. So it's we think we are hoping to plant almost like 1,000 trees this coming summer. So it will be distributed among communities, and then some will go to the forest. So maybe by the time you come, you will find most of the trees have been distributed, and some will be in the forest.
So part of it, like on the back of what Mick was saying and on the back of what Baxi's saying, so part of the project involves replanting trees to try and restore the forests that have been logged or chopped down. And you only get there by replanting the trees as quickly as possible. So Baxi's been involved with setting up the tree nursery within the community that also they also grow trees that benefit the local community, so it provides fruit and vegetables for them, cashew nuts and things like that, but also the planting trees that benefit the wildlife, which in turn benefit the communities as well. So by you joining this trip, in a way of giving back, just by you joining it's giving back to this community and the wildlife that exists there. So I'll talk a bit about the health and safety. It is quite brief. So there's a few things that you would need to do before going there. If you haven't been to somewhere like this before, if you haven't traveled to Africa or different parts of Asia, then you'll need to check the government website for travel to Gambia, and that will give you an idea of what you need to do before you go. So it will give you information about speaking to your GP and looking at the required vaccinations before you travel. So like hepatitis A, hepatitis B, MMR, tetanus, rabies, yellow fever. They put rabies on there because there is rabies that are present in Gambia, but I haven't had the rabies vaccine. I think Mick will have, because he's directly worked with the red colobus monkeys in terms of capturing them. And if you are bitten, then that could transfer rabies. But I haven't had it in all the time. I haven't had the vaccination in all the times I've been there, just because I don't directly work with. I'm not handling any animals that may have rabies. There is stray dogs, but again, the likeliness of you being bit by a stray dog is very, very low, if non-existent. So that's my personal reasons for not getting the rabies vaccine. If you go to the GP, they'll probably tell you to get it, and then that's entirely up to you if you wanted to get the vaccine or not. But it does cost quite a bit. I can't remember the exact cost, but yeah. So it's up to you to make your own judgment really on the vaccines. Again, speak to your GP about anti-malarial. So malaria is present throughout Gambia, on the coast and further up country where we'll be staying. So you would need to have anti-malarials. So on an evening, we'd make sure that there's mosquito nets for everybody that comes out, because the time where you're most likely to be attacked by mosquitoes, and it does happen. And especially because it's sort of the start of the dry season, end of the wet season, November, that there is more mosquitoes around than if you were to go in March, April time. So speak to your GP about anti-malarials. The one that I use is Malarone, because I feel like it's got the least side effects. But your GP will be able to advise you on that. We can't really advise on what you should get or shouldn't get, but just to be aware of stuff like that, and maybe consult with them as soon as you can. So if you are very interested about joining, then maybe look at getting that done in the next couple of weeks, because I think you have to book your vaccination slots in a few weeks in advance. So if you leave it right up until a month before, one, you won't be fully covered. The vaccine won't have taken full effect. Yeah, so these are a few things to bear in mind. So consider that another few things. So consider that, I know Mick mentioned it before, consider that we'll be staying in a remote location with no Western style medical care for about 8 hours drive. It might be a bit less than that. But if you do need medical attention, then you just have to bear in mind that if it's serious medical attention that you need, then there is no hospitals close by or anything like that. There's only basic first aid. So if you did fall ill, or the likes of snake bites and things like that, then, like, not to put anyone off, but you have to be aware that there is things that could result in you needing medical attention. In the time that I've been there, and I think in the time that Mick's been there, I don't think that we've run into any problems like that. There is sort of like pharmacies that you have to get medication from at a reasonable distance drive. But if you needed actual hospital treatment, just remember that you're in a remote area and that we're quite far away from a hospital. All of the vehicles that were used are checked and maintained, but it's very different to how they're maintained in the UK and Europe, so it's not to the same standard. So all the vehicles over there are sort of what Europe and America send over as their used, the vehicles that that Europe don't want anymore, that they've gone, they just can't use. So all the vehicles are very old, like over 20 years old. So things like breaking down, they're just not maintained to what the standards are over here. So that's something else to bear in mind. Mick mentioned before about crime, and so there is things like pickpocketing on the course. So things to bear in mind is don't advertise or show expensive equipment. So don't be flashing a brand new camera around when you're going visiting the fisheries and walking around there. Not flashing wads of cash around, because you're just playing you'll end up attracting pickpocketers, really. So I've put there, people of Gambia are very friendly and it's a very popular tourist destination. But it's like going anywhere. So you could be going to London, which I would consider more dangerous, to be fair. So it's just like visiting any city in the UK. Be vigilant. Like I said before, keep your pocket zipped up or cash in a wallet where you can see it, phone in your pocket. Just make sure you're aware of what you've got on you. So it's like being anywhere. It's more so on the coast. When you travel further up country, it's a lot more laid back, and you don't have as many people pestering you on the beach. So it's a lot more. I find it a lot more friendlier when you travel up country. So that there is corruption, like anywhere. There's corruption in the UK. It's just more hidden corruption. In Gambia, it's more it's open corruption. They would gladly tell you about it. So you might get police that come over to you asking or stop you in your vehicle and say that you need to pay to drive on. I've had it before where I've arrived in Gambia at the airport, and they've took out my camera and asked if it was a new camera, and I said it's a brand new camera. And then the airport staff said, well, you have to pay tax on it to come into the country. And I said, all right, okay, how much tax do I have to pay? And he said, how much is it worth? And I said, well, about £500. And he was like, yeah, it's £500 tax. I was like, £500 tax for coming into the country with my own camera. And like I knew that he was playing the games because I've been to Gambia so many times, and I just told him where to go, really, and just walked on. So yeah, don't pay people if they're openly being corrupt. Like there is always the risk of people asking for money, but then you'll be with our team and you're kept completely safe. So if you're with Lamin, Baxi, all the others, then generally you won't get harassed or anything like that. Don't take pictures of army or police, and ask the locals if they're okay with you taking any pictures. It's just something like just be what do I just call it? Yeah, just be aware that like some people don't want the picture taken, but especially army or police. But some locals don't, so it's just nice to ask first. Only drink bottled water, so don't be drinking from wells, taps or rivers. So we haven't built up an immune system that's capable of drinking from river water or anything like that. So don't be doing that. We'll provide bottled water. So only drink bottled water. The food hygiene isn't the same as what it is in the UK and Europe. So just something to be aware of, that you can get upset stomachs. It's generally nearly all the time. Your first time anyway, you're likely to get an upset stomach. So for me, because we're not used to eating different stuff like what they're doing in Gambia, it can upset your stomach. So what I tend to do is eat like a vegetarian diet while I'm over there. So yeah, that's something to bear in mind. Food allergies. So if you've got any food allergies, then and you are really wanting to come, then let me know, because you will be eating with the locals. So the meals will be cooked by the women in the village, and we'd need to know that the food that you're eating is safe for you. So if you've got any allergies, then just let someone know. So that's basically what I've got. And then I think Mick, you've just joined us again. Were you going to show a video clip? Can't hear you, Mick.
Sorry, Tom, is that better?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, we've just put together a little film which we are sharing with some of the organizations we work with, like the Department of Parks and Wildlife Management and other kind of national and international partners. And it will give you a bit of a flavor, just generally, it will give you an overview of the project. But whether you want to watch that now, I can share it now, or I can send you the link. It's on YouTube, whatever you want, whatever you think.
What does everyone think? Someone shout out if they want to watch it, we can send a link.
I think you prefer to send the link so we can look at it later on as a family as well, or come back as well.
Sounds good. I'll do that anyway, Carl. I can put the link in the chat. Yeah. Yeah.
So on the back of that, does anyone have any questions? Because I sort of put that together today just to give a brief overview of different things about Gambia and what's involved, but it's kind of open to, it's quite flexible in terms of what people are wanting to get out of it.
What I'd really like to know is why you've decided to, or why you're even thinking about coming to the Gambia. I'd like to know, what interests you about it.
So I don't mind answering that first, mate.
Yeah, go for it.
For me, like I said earlier, being posted in Kenya for when I was a lot younger in the army, I was over there as permanent staff, so I had no one really, my regiment, to share it with. There's, I don't know, probably 10 of us based up there, and I live quite remotely doing different things, and experience I could never share with anyone at home. And it was something all the way through, kind of waiting to be a parent. One day I want to take the kids on safari and live as in the bush as wild as possible, but it just, I didn't ever think that was safe to go back with what's happened since them days. And then this came up, and my first thing to Tom was, is it safe for kids? Because this could be, and it's ignorance really. It's a case of, that was a great time in my life, I've moved on, but I think us as a family, this is exactly what we're after, kind of to be humbled, for the kids to see what's out there and how lucky they are, but also experience kind of the disconnect, the remoteness of things, the simplicity of things. It'll be special as a family for us. The gratitude of the simple things.
Yeah, I get that. Thank you.
Cheers, man.
Anyone else want to chip in?
I've got a question.
Go for it.
Michael.
And I might as well ask it because I don't know if anybody's thought of it. Get it out of the way. What's the score about COVID over in Gambia? As in, do we need to be double, triple, quadruple jabbed? I don't care really, but if I need to, then I'll get it done. But
I mean, you come in there. Back.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm there.
Yeah, the situation with COVID. That was the question. What has to happen if they're coming in with regards to COVID? Corona.
There's no restrictions at the moment in the country, and I definitely miss to hear from the Ministry of Health about the COVID cases in the Gambia. Yeah, but there's no no restriction. The only restriction part is when you are visiting the bank, you need to put on a mask. And there is nothing like social distance in terms of transportations or market areas. Yeah.
Thank you.
So
Okay,
Gambia, like you said, Gambia is COVID free.
Yeah.
I just wanted to get it out of the way, to be fair, because maybe somebody else was thinking it. I don't know.
Yeah, so I think I don't know what it was like when you went.
Yeah. We within the Gambians here at the moment, to be quite honest, we only scared of people traveling into the Gambia, but with ourselves, yeah, we are free from COVID.
No, but you're right. You're right. I mean, I'm sure there's less surveillance in the Gambia than there is in Europe. I'm sure you have had COVID, but for whatever reason, because they have a much younger population out there, Michael, they just have not had the big epidemic that we've seen in the UK and other parts of Europe. So when I traveled out just recently, all you need basically is a vaccine certificate, which you flash at border control. You don't need any testing pre or post or any of that stuff.
I suppose that's where my question was aimed at, really, because I haven't been out of the country since, well, I come back from Afghan. But I got double jabbed out there. But and I know a few of my friends have been on holiday, and to be honest, I don't really care about it. It was just something that I was thinking about, and I thought, well, I'll ask it. But yeah, I'm cool with that.
Yeah, I think the last time I was there in November, I think I just had 2 vaccinations and just showed them the certificate, and that was enough. But again, you might have to look on the government website for travel to Gambia, and that might tell you that you might need a booster or whatever for it's mainly for getting out of the UK, but getting into Gambia, it'd be fine.
Have you got a background in the military as well, then, Michael?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
You have.
Yeah.
Tom. This one goes to Carl with his family, and I think it will be a great opportunity for his kids as well, because they could see the cultural difference and also learning about how life is about the Gambian kids and European kids, because the kids here, their families, their parents are definitely poor, but they're still happy. Even if you go at the school, some of the kids, they don't even have money to food during the break time. This break is during the time always most of the kids come out to buy some food to keep themselves in the class going, and you will see they will experience all those how they live their daily life, and the clothes that they wear and place that they sleep and the environment that they live and the weather conditions as well. And this is going to be a very, very big experience for them, because and started from the coast, and they will see it, how the kids in the coast, the schools that they go into, and the places that they do their their activities, like daily activities, playing grounds and all those stuff, is different from the ones that you have in Europe. I've never traveled to Europe, and but I have so many people in my country lives in UK and other part of the Europe, and when their kids comes here, the cultural experience that they have and the kind of life that they have in Europe and the kind of life that our kids have here is different. And the foods also that we eat. Normally our basic food is rice in the Gambia here, and we have different types of cultures in the Gambia, almost 8 ethnic groups in the Gambia, and each of these ethnic groups, they all have their own cultural foods. And I think it will be very nice also for all of you to see these cultural foods that we have in the Gambia, and you can even have a taste of it, which is very nice. We have a benachin, we have domoda, which is from peanut butter, and we have nyankatang, which is another very spicy food and very nice, and we have yasha. Mick have tested all most of these Gambian dishes, and we will show you also how to cook this Gambian food, and we will take you around to compound and do this cultural experience, cultural talks, historic, a brief history of the Gambia and each village as well.
because we're gonna Sambelkunda. We have 3 communities there: Sambelkunda, Tuba Dembasama, Mizira, Bani, and Willinga. So each of these, there will be a head of a village. In each of these, they will tell you about a brief history about each of the village and when was these villages are founded and who were the founder of each of these villages as well. And who are indigenous people in each of these villages.
That's great. We can hear you well now, Lamin. Thank you. We can hear you great now.
Oh yeah, you can hear me. All right, that's
loud. Yeah.
And also we have different cultural dances, I think, and we will show you all these cultural activities, the Fulas, the Mandinkas, and but so unfortunately we don't have a Jola, but we will be able to show you the Jola culture. And I think Baxi is a half Jola, not a full Jola, but he will tell you more about he will tell you more about the Jola culture. I am a Mandinka, and I can tell you more about the Mandinka culture, where the Mandinka originally came from. And you go into a village tour and take you around to the women vegetable gardens, because most of the women are here. They are not employed, they are housewives. They spend all their daily activities going into the gardens, and those gardens, they benefit all the monies that they gathered from the garden, it coming back to the family as well. Some of the people responsible for their kids' school fees, their family feedings and all the stuff. And you could visit all the women vegetable gardens as well. And if you are lucky, a Lumo day, like Mondays, we could take you to the Lumos. People came from different angles of the older village and they meet at one place. It's just like a market day. I don't know, Sunday market, whether you call it Sunday market in UK, and everybody from different areas, they come and sell their products at the one big market day and go back as well.
Mind you, the family, me can tell you, the family I came from, if you go there one day, you'll be just for 30 minutes, you'll be amazed. You know, the way we live.
All right, yeah.
I took him there for a surprise visit, and then he was like, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I felt like the long lost son of the Baxi Sanyang clan.
Yeah, and yeah, and also like we can teach you a basic greeting of our local languages. Like it depending on which language you are interested on, because we just
Rise a future.
To speak to people, whether Mandinka is the widest spoken language, but if you go to up country, Fula is the widest spoken language. But so unfortunately, I cannot teach you how to speak Fula, but there are my staff that we could teach you, because they are all Fula. They can teach you how to speak Fula, and we can teach you how to do a basic greetings of the local language when you go out to people, which you could be able to say it, and that makes people's interactions easier for you. And you see a lot of, it's going to be a difference when you are in the coast and when you are in the up country. Like in up country, lot of kids built interest to follow you. You'll see it 100 of kids trying to follow you up, because they definitely don't see people from Europe going into that remote area quite often, because it's not more of tourist area. But in the coast, they have been seeing tourists going back and forth every day, but they will try to interact with you in the coast also, because if you go to Tom mentioned, Tanje is a popular fishing center in the Gambia, and you could see a lot of different fishes as well, and a lot of different nationalities, because 95% of the fishermen in the Gambia are from Senegal. They are Senegalese, and most of the Gambians are involved into fishing, because we don't have any skill from that. It's just recently through the the migration from the Senegalese to the Gambians. Most of the Gambians also are trying to engage and involve into fishing, but most of the fishing boats are all Senegalese, and the dry fish are the people responsible for making the dry fish. These are from Ghana and Nigeria. You have Ghanaians and you have Nigerians as well, and most of the smoking fish are done by our Gambian women. So we will give you more information about all this if you are in the country, just to give you a brief information about it. And if you have any questions, to ask more, even from this meeting, link Tom, and we will feed you back before coming into the country. And we will give you a code of dress when you are coming into the Gambia, as the weather conditions are different, and we will pass you all those informations as well.
And I can tell you, for those two kids, I think Carl, for your two kids, they will enjoy Gambia. As a former teacher, that deal with kids every day, and then they will really enjoy Gambia. Gambia is like that. If any kids came from Europe or America, and if you come to Gambia here, you really enjoy, because you experience things that you have never experienced before, and then as they call it, the Gambian experience is always around. So you find those things a lot, and then the kids will really enjoy Gambia, because I can tell you, I have taken two or three Europeans, British in fact. They came to my school during when I was a teacher at Tallinn Annex, and then they were like, every year when they came around, they wanted to visit me at the school there. But rather unfortunate, I'm no longer teaching there, but still you will have schools that you can visit, and then you will really enjoy there.
We look forward to meeting you guys. She's got a load of questions here that is probably best
Go on then, Lottie.
Probably best on a quick fire, really. I think you've answered some, Tom, but do you want to ask questions?
How many times have you been, Tom?
You said?
How many times have you been, Tom?
Yeah.
I have no idea how many times I've been now, but started in 2016. Yeah, so I've been going every year ever since. So a lot.
Okay, that's that one. Stand by. Okay, next one.
What sort of animals will we see?
So you could expect to see, so at the project site that we've been talking about, which is C4RC, Communities for Red Colobus, you'd see red colobus monkeys. So I don't know if you saw on the PowerPoint the really bright orange monkeys. They're incredibly rare, so you're very lucky to actually be able to go and see them. Not many people would be able to see them, so they're considered the rarest primate in Africa. So you definitely see them. We'd also look at having a little boat trip. So it give everybody a chance to relax for the day. It's like a double-decker boat. So you can go up onto the top deck and search for wildlife from the center of the river as we're traveling down. You can look at the river banks. But you'd also see things like hippos. We'd travel past a place called Baboon Island, where there's a lot of chimpanzees. So you'd see them. There's baboons. So what's quite interesting when you go through the forest on a foot patrol with the rangers is when you hear baboons, because baboons are in a big troop. They're in a lot of numbers. So you can hear them, and there's been quite a few times where we've been, and they'll only be a few yards away from you, and they'll be barking at you as like a defense call, and it's just an amazing experience to be in. There's also, you probably wouldn't see them, so there is hyenas, and there's other cats there. There's no lions, there's no rhinos, elephants, or giraffe. So there's not any of the traditional like South African big five like that, but there is hyenas, but you won't necessarily hear them or see them even. when I did the marathon challenge, I was followed by hyenas for about 6 miles because my support vehicle broke down, and and then I thought, well, I'll keep going because I had to make ground, so I just kept going, and then I heard hyenas, and they were only about 20 meters away from me in the bush. So I was on the road. They're only about 20 meters away from me, and you know the hyena call. It's like a laugh, a cackle, and
It was waiting for you to break down.
Pardon?
They was waiting for you to break down, wasn't they?
Yeah, exactly. So I think they were stalking me, waiting for me to collapse, because I think it was marathon number 5. So I was knackered anyway. And yeah, I remember I was walking along, running along, thinking, I've got a torch. Well, if it jumps out of the bush at me, then I'll hit it with a torch. That's the only thing I could think of. So those are the wild. You see a vast array of birds as well. So different eagles. You've got like Goliath heron, pelicans. You've got all sorts of fantastic birds that you would see, and it's really good to be walking through the forests and just looking and listening and seeing how many different species there are.
Okay, ask 2 more.
No, you ask that.
You ask it.
You ask it.
What would be the highest temperature out there?
Probably about 40, but that's unlikely. That's unlikely, Lottie, in November, December. So if you go at that time of year, you might be as high as 35. But it's, so they have a rainy season that goes from about August through to October, and then the dry season is from sort of November onwards, and it's kind of cool through our winter, and then it gets hotter and hotter from maybe February, March onwards. So if you went at the end of November or in December, that would be a really good time to go. And what you do is you hang out a few days in a hotel on the coast, and you just kind of acclimatize and get used to the heat, and then we'll take you up country when you're used to it a bit more.
Thank you. One last one.
You wanted to ask this one.
How do we wash?
That's a very, very good question.
And I'm Lindsay, by the way, coming straight in with the basic question.
Yeah, that's
Come in.
all right.
Take that one.
In up country, we at the camp, we have a shower there. We have a shower we have a flush toilet, and we have a shower. And but if you want, also there's an open toilet that we could show it to you, and also a bucket that we normally use to put a water on ourselves. But on your side there, we have a shower and a flush toilet, and that's more of European styles and stuff.
But actually, the other thing that we could do, which I've done once or twice before, is if you've got clothes to wash, if you're out there for a period of time and you want to wash your clothes.
We don't have a washing machine.
No, but the women would do that and bring them back, no? In the village?
Yes.
If we gave them to...
Yes, in the village, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So...
Yeah. So where are we at with timings to have to confirm? Is this at the start of a few different Zoom meetings, or when do we have to know kind of the pricing structure and then how to confirm and